welcome once again, Ranting Blue Penguin. You see the Twitter handle there at the bottom. I'm Tim. Joining me today, I've got Mike and David. They are members of the Mecklenburg Reserves, and they are the independent supporters group for Charlotte Independence of USL League One. Guys, thanks for coming on. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us, and happy Mech Deck Day to everybody.
Mech. The Mecklenburg Independence is based off of that document, correct? That's where Charlotte Independence and where you guys got your name.
Yeah, exactly. It's this featured on our. Whoops, I'm kind of mirrored on the screen. This is Captain Jack. He's kind of a famous historical figure. I'd say it's kind of half history, half lore, but supposedly Mecklenburg was the first region in the United States to declare its independence from England, and this Captain James Jack guy rode on his horse up to Philadelphia, supposedly slapped down the Mecklenburg Resolve, saying, "Hey, we're done with England, forget it." And that's just sort of been a part of the lore of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County for a very long time. And I know there are some celebrations going on in the city right now to commemorate that. There's definitely some dispute about how historically accurate it is, but it's stuck with the lore and served as I think the team, when they started up, decided to tap into that and went for sort of a colonial American branding, and then we sort of latched onto that as well with our branding.
Yeah, and most of soccer support and everything else is about lore and history, the larger than life names, the figures, the everything that you see back there. And so this just ties in. It doesn't matter if it's true; it's a great story, and
right, exactly. That's how I feel about it.
Right. Long before Paul Revere, I'm going to slap this down and say your move. So
exactly,
that is brilliant. So again, going into that culture thing, though, as you've got history, you've got a lot of stuff going on. Really, just talk me through a little bit about how Charlotte Independence came to be, and how that soccer culture kind of worked its way into that area of North Carolina.
I want to say the Independence started in the year 2014. I was living in Charlotte at the time, and we had another team called the Eagles that may have been in USL. I don't exactly remember their league. I went to one of their games, and no offense to them, but I felt like the atmosphere was kind of lacking. Tim, we were talking a bit pregame, and you were sharing how supporters culture really drew you to soccer, and I felt the same way. Also a fan of football and basketball, and mainly college football and college basketball, because I feel like there's way more passion for the teams. Again, I used to live in Nebraska, so I'm very familiar with Big Red and just how full those stadiums were. I'm not sure how it's gone since then, but I was there.
They're going to tell you there is still a sellout streak, and it's still the third largest city in Nebraska on game day. But it is still a religion here, and it is because of the supporters.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like I get, the highest level of support in any sport is in soccer. And so my sort of gateway was probably the U.S. men's and women's national teams. And just seeing soccer crowds kind of through that. And then I started watching Champions League, and I just thought it was so cool and so interesting. So 2014 comes around. I'm kind of, we're getting a local team. I like to support the teams where I live and see it live. TV is fun to watch soccer, but you don't get the same energy of the vibe of the atmosphere when you're watching on TV as when you're in the crowd and kind of the thick of it. So I want to say it was like 2014. I remember the branding was released in general, and spending a lot of time giving feedback on the various logos that were put forth in color schemes. And I was really happy with what ultimately came about. I thought it looked really good at the time. And right around the same time, a group formed called Jack's Militia. And I remember going to their inaugural meeting at Old Mecklenburg Brewery, who incidentally has a beer they brew called Captain Jack and features the writer. And we drink that at all our pregame tailgates. The branding fits, but mainly it's just really good. It incidentally is one of my favorite beers. And Old Meg was kind enough to give us some beer to drink for free, basically at every tailgate. So, Jack's Militia was there pretty much from day one. And candidly, I never actually joined. They had this scarf they were debuting. It cost $30. not that expensive, but at that time, I didn't have quite as much. I was a student, didn't have quite as
Yeah.
much disposable income, and honestly, my reasoning was like this: gosh, $30, I could buy a lot of beer with that. I think I'll just
Yep.
go to the games and kind of support
Mhm.
without actually joining. But yeah, I mean, I think it was really good as far as I could tell, not being in it but watching it. I thought there was a lot of passion for the size of thing, and we were a
Mhm.
little bit in a similar scenario, I'd say, to NoCo,
Okay.
with not having a stadium
Yep.
set home. We played at UNC Charlotte's campus. We played at Wing It, a small school. We played at Ramblewood Park, which is literally like a county park with soccer fields on it, and they just
Mhm.
built a temporary stadium around it, which was not a great facility in terms of the actual structure, but I actually
Mhm.
liked it a lot. It felt very like raw and authentic, and had a space called the Mech Deck where a lot of the supporters would be. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it felt very grassroots.
Mhm.
As I mentioned, I kind of fell off the Independence bandwagon for a while. Our current coach is Mike Jeffries. Our inaugural coach is
Okay.
Mike Jeffries. Mike is a good guy. Met
Mhm.
him, talked several times. I'm very confident he's just a good person and a good coach,
Mhm.
and never really had a bad year. But I want to say, oh gosh, when was it? At some point, he got relieved of his head coaching duties and
Right.
pushed to the GM role. And they hired this guy named McGinnis who had never coached before, and
Mhm.
it went so badly. I mean, the team
Yep.
overnight went from at least mediocre to awful, and
Right.
one win in like 10 or 12 games just looked so bad. Just for eye test of the soccer was bad. Like they didn't just lose a bunch of games. They were a bad team almost
Yep.
overnight. And I just was like kind of backed away from it a little bit. Call me a fair
Right.
weather fan if you will, but I ended up kind of coming back to the Independence in 2021. We're talking about, I think, a little bit about MLS and
Mhm.
its incursion to various cities. Well, and I think 2019 there was another group, not Tepper,
Mhm.
that
Yep.
put in a bid to create an MLS team, and they were associated with NASCAR, and they wanted to
Yep.
take the American Legion Memorial Stadium, which is where the Independents now play, and turn it into MLS. And that
Right.
bid narrowly was thwarted really by the local government. The city
Yep.
refused to do whatever needed to be done to make that happen.
Mhm.
Um, and that was kind of, I would say, a really good thing for the Independents because it opened up the door
Right.
for them to play at American Legion Memorial Stadium. And I read um, somewhere online that they would be moving to that new stadium. And I was like, this is where we should have been day one. It's
Mhm.
instantly very close to where I live. And sort of resolve myself. Okay, and this was probably in 2020 when there was no going to games, and I was like, as soon as
Right.
the doors open for this new stadium, I'm back in. I'm all in.
Mhm.
Half season tickets. It opened halfway through the year, and I didn't even join a supporters group initially. I don't know if there was. I think we started. I didn't start this group,
Mhm.
but we started
Yep.
in probably July, August of 2021, and I remember sitting with my wife in the opposite corner, seeing a bunch of people drumming and waving the flags, and
Yeah.
we kind of migrated our seats, and I met Trey Charles, our founder, and we just
Mhm.
sort of went from there. And it was a really interesting atmosphere in the supporter section back then because Charlotte FC was supposed to start in
Mhm.
2021, but due to
Yep.
COVID, it got pushed back a year. But there were still already various supporters groups that had formed around Charlotte FC in anticipation of the MLS team. So we, sat in section 114 along with Mid City Collective, Southbound and
Yep.
Crown, Blue Furia, and it's
Mhm.
really resulted in there being this kind of mosaic of supporters groups for kind of both teams. I mean, most of the groups are Charlotte FC focused, but we've
Yeah.
been privileged enough to have a lot of the supporters groups for FC also coming to Independence games, in particular Blue Furia,
Yep.
who I mean, the numbers that show up at Independence games are much lower, but for definitely for 2021 and 2022, there was a lot of crossover, perhaps related to well, obviously in 2021 there was no Charlotte FC, but even
Right.
last year we had I think four loan players, so four Charlotte FC
Yep.
players were kind of were back and forth between the Independents and
Okay.
FC, and that would be Quinn McNeil, Chris Hagart, Coas Santos, and Adrian Zendejas. So I think maybe that
Yep.
fostered some interest. If you're an FC fan, you want to see how the loan guys are doing.
Yep.
Um, so it was a really good deal, I think, for those 2 years, and a lot of cross support, a lot of collaboration
Mhm.
that I would like to see between the various leagues. For a
Yeah.
long time, USL and MLS were allies. They were not
Yes.
adversaries.
Yes.
There were, we like, for example, Independence. We had a relationship with Colorado Rapids.
Yep.
That we were
Yep.
like the
Saw that.
farm team for them, and I have no real affinity for the Rapids, no animosity,
Hmm.
but anytime an Independence player got called up, I'm now watching a Rapids game, and I'm now
Right.
interested if Enzo's getting playing time, or I think there's
Hmm.
another guy named something Hairston and
Hmm.
Calvert. I forget all their names, but I'm totally engaged in that, and I just thought that was such a good way to go,
Yeah.
because you're sort of cross pollinating between leagues and teams and generating interest, but ever since I want to say 2021, 2022, there's the
Yep.
creation of MLS Next Pro,
Yep.
and MLS pulled out of USL. And I don't
Yep.
think there are any two teams left like there used to be. And so they're really forging their own way. And concordantly, we don't have any Charlotte FC loan players anymore. All those guys are going
Right.
back and forth between Crown Legacy. And I think that's really changed the landscape pretty dramatically.
Yeah. How about you, David? How did you get into all of this, and what's kind of what drew you in?
Absolutely. So, just to give you a little bit of a history with my fandom, I grew up. My dad was born in the hospital across the street from Watford Football Club. The bigger,
Nice. Yeah.
so he grew me from the very beginning to be a Watford fan, and I
Yeah.
always have been. I always will be. But when it came to this moment where FC was becoming a reality, and I started to see the hype around that. And honestly, it just didn't quite feel me. I'm not the type of guy that's going to go to the shiniest team in the world.
Right.
If I was the type of guy that was attracted and drawn to the shiniest of the clubs, I'd be a Manchester United supporter. I'd be a City supporter. I'd be Liverpool. But I'm not. I'm a Watford supporter. I like
Yeah.
I like pain, and I like that grassroots atmosphere, and that's what really drew me to the Independents. My parents actually they gifted me a season ticket to the Independents for Christmas back in 2021, and that was the moment I said, I'm going to put myself into this, heart and soul, and I'm going to do everything I can to support this team.
Mhm.
And I just said yes to everything, and I tried to, be as helpful as I could to Mike and Trey with the reserves. And I really feel like I've gotten out everything that I put in. And I'm very, very excited for the future, the growth of this club. I'm extremely excited for the growth of Charlotte soccer in general.
Mhm.
I could talk a little bit about how much I'm looking forward to everything in the future, especially the new Super League team that's recently
Yep.
been. But suffice it to say, I'm all in on the Independents. It's really all my focus when it comes to my fandom right now, and I feel like it's a part of me, and I really want to make sure that as many people in the Charlotte area, in the Rock Hill area, down below the South Carolina border where I currently live,
Yeah.
can get to experience Independence games as much as they can, and get
Yeah.
out as much as I have.
Does that extend for you to the Independents too? Even though it's not the same ownership group, but the USL League Two team that's playing down in Rock Hill, have you managed to get out to see any of them or see the affiliation?
I've gotten out to see them. I can't say that have gone out to as many of the live games with that,
Right.
but you can tell that it is a massive focus of the what they do is in Rock Hill down in Manchester Meadows. I mean, that's just a couple of miles away from me, and they're
Right.
constantly got events going on. Is that my focus? No, my focus is with
Right.
the one team, but you can tell that there is a lot of machinations going on around there, and then around the new Super League team. That's an entirely different part of what is happening with American Legion Memorial Stadium.
Right.
The more you think about it, the more you realize that Charlotte soccer scene is just a massive spider web,
Yeah.
full of talent and full of options for the fans in this area. It's remarkable how many options fans in this metro area have to go watch
Yeah.
their whatever their favorite team is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of those metropolises you don't really think of when you think of metropolises, because it's that nice southern town, but it's still a big city. Having been through there a few times, when you think North Carolina, everyone thinks Raleigh, everyone thinks Durham and Chapel Hill, and those types. But yeah, Charlotte absolutely is a queen city and a crown jewel of the South that a lot of people, if you're not from the South, if you're not familiar with the South, may tend to overlook and like, well, why are we even worried about Charlotte? Have you seen that footprint expand since these teams have come in? Has it been good for at least the city's exposure, if not for the competition and the support?
I mean, I definitely the footprint has expanded with the addition of Charlotte FC. I think the TV viewership slash online viewership for the Independents never going to be that far reaching geographically, but I think there's just been a lot of discourse in general. There used to be this notion, uh, maybe even prejudice about soccer succeeding in the South. Oh,
Hmm.
they'll just never jump on board. There's too much of a culture clash, and that could not be further than the truth. I mean, Atlanta, has
Yep.
tremendous number of support. Nashville, from what I've gathered and seen, they've got great support there too. And Charlotte FC has as well as an MLS team. I want to say Charlotte FC's number one or number two so far in average attendance. So that stereotype has, I think, been shattered, and I think
Yep.
this really the entirety of the United States. There's potential for great support of a team, be it MLS or lower league. You can find that niche and that culture.
Absolutely. I think if you're not paying attention to what Charlotte soccer fans and the passion that they have for their local teams, if you're not paying attention to that, you're missing a huge story.
Yep. So uh, with that, and that's the good thing that MLS brings is they bring exposure. They show that there is a home here. A lot of the groundwork laid by the League One teams and previous professional leagues, the League Two teams, and then here comes an MLS team. Let's sit down. Do you feel like there is room for all of that, and for where soccer can go in Charlotte, or does it feel on occasion like Charlotte FC is just going to end up swallowing all of it?
That's a phenomenal question. It's kind of the question. I'll just add that I think the most successful MLS teams in terms of support were those that got elevated. I think that was really the standard for a long time, right? I'll also claim some Seattle Sounders
Right.
fan in
Yep.
here and say, Seattle Sounders were a minor league team that got elevated
Yep.
to MLS, and instantly had fantastic support both in terms of attendance and then just the supporters groups,
Right.
and the chants and the whole vibe. I went to a Sounders game, maybe in 2014, and I was blown away at
Hmm.
what I observed, and it felt kind of like Europe in America with the way they marched the stadium and were so organized with their chants and whatnot. And same thing with Portland when they got elevated as well, or maybe you could say promoted to MLS.
Yep.
Instantly great support. Um, and both those teams were successful on the field. Seattle's won, I think, multiple MLS Cups.
Yep.
Portland has won, I think, at least one.
Hmm.
And then you have FC Cincinnati. They got promoted. And Minnesota
Yep.
United, and I think great fan support for both those teams. Those two maybe not as successful on the
Right.
field, but I feel like it was a good thing to kind of reward those fan bases for
Hmm.
the foundation that they've laid and to bring them up. But now we're seeing kind of the opposite. It's sort of MLS
Yep.
is like, hey, who's got you know the most $1 billion and who's
Yep.
interested, and that's who wins the bid. So
Right.
I think it's a bit unfortunate in some regards, but I'm the optimist, but I think there is room for multiple teams in various markets, just depending on the size and the population.
Hmm.
Um, so I'd like to think, talking about San Diego, I'd like to think there is room for
Hmm.
Loyal and the MLS team, and some of that's just population, and some of that's just I think giving people an affordable soccer option. There was
Right.
a lot of discussion and complaints about the ticket prices for Charlotte FC when that launched, as excited
Yep.
people were. We have, I'm told, the most expensive tickets in MLS, and
Yep.
that's unfortunate because I mean I don't think finances should be a barrier to soccer fandom. I think
Yep.
soccer should be affordable for everyone. And
Mhm.
one of the things the independents really did well, has done well, is be an affordable option. Like David and I, we pay, $5 a game to get in. I think in CFC they do something similar. So if there's room, I think there is room. And USL, if there's a USL team, they'd need to make sure that they're staying affordable, because I guarantee you in San Diego, with that expansion fee, $500 million, those are not going to be cheap
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
So for a place like that, yeah, I think there is room for at least two teams, as long as there's a big gap in how much it costs to attend games.
Right. And go ahead, David.
Well, I mean, I think we have to look at it from a uh, laissez-faire, capitalistic kind of perspective.
Mhm.
The best teams, the best organizations will out.
Mhm.
I happen to think that the Independence is the best value for entertainment in the Queen
Mhm.
City, and that's what I will pitch the team to
Mhm.
just about anyone who will listen, because it's not just the soccer; it's everything around the soccer. It's the atmosphere and the vibes that have me say to everyone from large families to single kids who are just out of college, they will find something that they enjoy, and it'll be at a very affordable price point that they can come out, feed their kids, with a
Yeah.
respectable and convenient concessions fee, and be able to have a nice night evening out in Charlotte with an amazing skyline. And you're saying we can give our family a really nice night out and not break the
Mhm.
bank.
Right. So I know I know the lower leagues, that tends to be, even in AAA baseball. If you start looking at that, you start looking at the ticket price versus they have the between innings stuff, and it's more the atmosphere. Yes, you're watching Rising Stars, but it's more the atmosphere that a lot of people go to for those AAA games. And I've seen the same in League One. Uh, what do you guys have as far as chance traditions? Like, what's some of your favorite stuff that you would pitch and say, "Hey, come out because we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be awesome, and you're going to feel like part of the actual club."
Yeah, chance traditions, as I mentioned, we've kind of embraced the colonial vibe. So we've
Mhm.
usually got a bunch of those tri-point hats available, a
Yep.
couple stick horses. We just try to have fun and be, over the top and ridiculous. We've also got this interesting sign that I'm sure you're all familiar with, the classic
Yep.
dancing banana gif. And the sign,
Yep.
it's created this way. You rock it back and forth, you
Yep.
see the banana dance. We try to use that to like
Nice.
distract penalty kick takers.
Nice.
Uh,
Noted.
yeah, it's worked at least on one occasion. I like to
Yeah.
say it worked. Really, I think our goalie just made a great save, but it's yeah. We just try to have fun, and
Yep.
I will say this: there's a lot more restrictions in MLS about what you can do in the
Yep.
stadium, and it does feel way more open. And one of the other supporters groups for Charlotte FC Blue Furia, they seem to really like kind of the freedom that they have in the Independence Stadium to bring instruments, to bring streamers, balloons. They've not just whatever their tifos, banners. Like there's really not much
Yep.
in the way of permission. You just kind of, let the security know in advance and bring it
Yep.
in. So yeah, we try to be over the top, and I think sometimes we even have this horse head. Sometimes people wear and look, kind of ridiculous. So yeah, mainly that, and we've got a bunch of chants with the Charlotte FC being around and Blue Fury being there. I try to kind of bring some of the FC chants to
Mhm.
Independence, but we've got our own as well that are popular. Probably Independence We Are Here
Yep.
is the most popular one. Independence We Are Here, and we said it a few times. Drinking loud and cheering loud and drinking beer. People like that
Yep.
one a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, Dave, what do you think?
I like the fact that when we get really loud and really boisterous, and the we've got the drums banging and all of the instruments playing at the same time. Everyone else, they'll turn and look at us. I
Yep.
see that throughout the rest of the stadium. They'll be focusing on us and be like, "Wow, they are loud. They are really
Yep.
brilliant." And I like that. I like that we provide that kind of atmosphere. And it's remarkable to me uh, how much of an effect that we seem to have on the team. We've had
Mhm.
members of the team come up to say, you have really changed what we, how we get up for games, or,
Yeah.
when we're in a tough spot and we're breathing heavy, we hear you guys. That they've said, we hear you guys. We feed off that energy. And that's what I want to give. I want to be able to give that energy to our players in the 93rd minute when they need that little
Yeah.
extra bit of gas. And that's what's exciting to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's one of the good things I hear about the ESPN broadcasts. Like there are a few things, but where the microphones are, we can hear you guys too. When we're sitting at home watching, we absolutely can hear you guys. I don't know if you get that feedback, but yeah, you're bringing it through those broadcasts as well. So you're spot on there.
I'm glad. I when it comes to the broadcast, I'm not really a huge fan of the broadcast.
Hmm.
How League One has been doing their broadcast. I have watched several other games that have nothing to do with Charlotte. Uh, I hope that the broadcaster are doing the fan clubs justice. I
Hmm.
know that there are many other fan clubs that are much larger than ours. I'm thinking Richmond, obviously you guys with Union
Yeah.
Nome, and I truly hope that they are doing you justice, because sometimes I feel like that's not quite been translating.
I'm gonna jump in and just say they're absolutely not doing the supporters groups justice. I've
No.
seen some videos of like Ford Madison, the flock, and they're just incredible.
Yes.
Despite being it is a lower technically lower league team, but just the energy, passion.
Hmm.
Omaha, I've been to a Union Omaha game and seen everybody on the grassy kind of knoll there, and I would never would have known that was happening just
Yeah.
watching the broadcast. So I would
Yeah.
I think the broadcasters currently do a pretty poor job of highlighting
Hmm.
the fans and the support that makes soccer so interesting, because you will not see the flock and what they're doing at any NBA game, at any NFL game,
Yeah.
period. Like it is almost completely unique to soccer, and
Hmm.
I think broadcasters really need to, for League One at least, highlight that better. I think Championship does it a little better. I think I may have even
Hmm.
watched a loyal game, and they just did a much better job of getting some crowd shots and
Right.
showing the support. But yeah, at this level, League One, it's thumbs down for me. They really need to
Yeah.
step up their game in terms of showing the fans, because it exists in a lot of places, particularly Omaha, Richmond, and Madison.
And
I, I,
yeah, really
I
all over the league.
Absolutely, and I was just gonna say, I think that if you throw out any of the banter on Twitter, I think that everyone would agree. We all really respect everyone else in
Yeah.
terms of their fan groups and what they do to support their teams.
Mhm.
Uh, and we know that they would say the same to us,
Yep.
and it's just I feel like there's a lot of mutual admiration, between, because we know what it takes to uh, keep a fan club alive and keep more supporters in it and recruit
Right.
more people, and we all just have a mutual love of the game.
Right. So, and obviously, broadcast quality. If you're talking about MLS, if you're talking about watching a Charlotte FC game versus watching a Charlotte Independence game, that's going to be a big difference. There's infrastructure. There's just stuff that the MLS has. Do you think that hinders growth in your area? People that may flip on the TV and see a local game and, hey, this one looks better than that one. Let me go check them out.
That's a really tough question, because the way MLS is being broadcast has changed
Mhm.
dramatically. I watch every Charlotte FC game now through an app, through Apple
Right.
TV,
Yep.
and that would be a barrier for me. I am a season ticket holder for Charlotte FC. One of the perks is I get that for free, which I
Yep.
appreciate for as expensive as the tickets are. I definitely appreciate that perk, but yeah, it's hard to say because that's new for this year. And but
Hmm.
in general, I think the broadcast quality. I maintain lower league soccer is not lower entertainment soccer, and I think
No.
there's a ton of. I mean, the players are objectively not going to be as strong, as fast, whatever as MLS, but I still feel like the ball control, the vision,
Hmm.
the passing. I mean, there's bangers of goals
Yep.
every week in USL.
Yep.
So I don't think that's so much the issue, but yeah, I mean, probably to someone who looks at the nice, crisp 4K of
Hmm.
MLS, and then the more I hear it called the potato cam, and
Yep.
US it just doesn't do a good job of highlighting the league. And I'll add for context, I've watched a couple of Crown Legacy games, and they're considered MLS Next Pro is considered a third division league as well, but there are clean, crisp 4K broadcasts, and it definitely looks. I know nothing about the teams, and I look at it side by side, I'm going to be drawn towards a 4K high definition, well produced MLS Next team probably over USL.
Right. Has that so I guess the ultimate question there is, do you feel like MLS has helped more than it's hindered the culture and the support and what you guys are trying to do? And especially as they came along right as you were dropping out of championship. So you're coming down out of that second tier down to a third tier. Do you feel like their entrance is helpful, or has it actually hindered a little bit of what you guys are trying to do?
Well, I would say the team self-relegated due precisely to MLS. So in terms of independence fandom, definitely hurt, no question. We lost tons of fans. People that were following independence, more casual fans more, but that migrated over to Charlotte FC. So in terms of our neck of the woods, it's definitely hurt. But as a fan of soccer generally, and a fan of the growth of soccer in the United States, I mean, on the net, it's been a tremendous upside. It's brought so much more visibility to soccer and allow, and really galvanized support. I mean, I think most independents have ever had like maybe two supporters groups, whereas Charlotte FC's got, a good half dozen. So it's definitely brought a lot more people out to soccer, and overall it's been a very good thing for soccer in Charlotte. But for the independents, it's presented a big challenge in terms of continuing to generate interest and just getting people going to games.
Right. So, and that's one of the issues, right? Is it's good now, but if you kill that grassroots, if you kill that lower level, that entry level, then you're really starting to chip away at the support base and everything else. And now you're just, hey, we're a top tier league, and come look at us, as opposed to actually generating that support and everything else. I noticed too, when the ownership group came in, that David Tepper, he hit most of the ownership, but included like Michael Jordan was part, huge name, and we see the Loyal doing the same thing, even though Mohammed Mansour and the native tribes there are the big ones. They just announced that Manny Machado, huge presence there in San Diego, is part of the ownership group. Does that have any effect? Do you think they did that just to help? Do you think they have actually any interest in it? Like, where are your thoughts on those types of things?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure I knew Michael Jordan was a part owner. I don't think he has any interest whatsoever. Just my gut reaction. I think it was just an investment in him diversifying his sports portfolio.
Right.
But that's. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say what people in San Diego might think. I think it's just, if you're Tepper and you can get more people to invest, why not?
Right.
David, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think you would get anyone, if you were to say, associate soccer with Michael Jordan. I don't think anyone would say that they associate those two things together.
He's never been to a game. He would have been. There would have been a camera on him if he had ever gone to a Charlotte FC game.
Like a Beckham cam. Yeah. No, I think that's simply an opportunity for him to diversify his portfolio, like you say, Mike. And I don't think many fans are going to be signing season tickets or putting down their season deposits because they might see Michael Jordan in a luxury box.
Fair enough. Has Jim McFillin, is that how you pronounce it? Has Jim made it to any of the Independence games? Have you guys gotten to see him or interact with him at all?
Not that often. I've seen him around. Actually, I've been, because I've known of Jim for a long time. I first saw him incidentally. I was talking before about Jackson Militia. He was there at the Old Mech when they were having their inaugural formal meeting. He was kind of wandering around, I guess, and I didn't even know it was the owner at the time. But yeah, it's kind of astonishing. I don't feel like I see any of the owners at the games usually, which is weird to me. I feel like if I owned a team, I'd be going every game. I mean, like look, Cowboys, Jerry Jones, he's he's there.
For
That's
better or worse, he's there.
for better or worse, right? I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
necessarily good, but like there are
yeah,
definitely a lot of owners who are at least passionate about their the team they own. So
yeah.
it's odd to me. I'd be going for sure.
Yeah, shout out to our owner Gary Green. He's done things. He'll take road trips. He had a contest last year, flew on his owner's jet to an away game,
Mhm.
and I see that a lot. I just didn't know if you guys had that kind of a relationship with your owner, like some other
Mhm.
teams do, or and how does that play into your thought processes as far as I know you're still independent supporters, but I'm sure hey, get out here, see us, see what we're doing. Does that play into you guys' thought at all?
To Jim's credit, I think he came to the away Tormenta playoff game
Right.
last year, so I do
Yeah.
remember seeing him there. But generally, it doesn't play in. We're there for a couple reasons. One, it's fun and it's
Right.
affordable and
Yep.
all those things, and two, to support the players because those guys deserve it without question.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
it's been a little disappointing for me to see them uh, lose support to Charlotte FC because they all seem like such good guys and they seem very, very appreciative of the fans they do have. So to me, it's like all the lower league players should have
Yes.
fantastic large crowds and
Hmm.
boisterous supporters groups. So yeah, I mean, I'm a Charlotte FC fan as well, but it's disappointing from the player standpoint to know that they don't have as much support as they used to or could. And as David mentioned, we've gotten a lot of feedback. Not
Yeah.
some of it direct, some of it indirect, but we've gotten a pretty clear message from the players that they want the support and it means a lot to them when they get it.
Right.
We focus on the players. They are the ones that
Yes.
we're cheering for every all 90 minutes, and
Yep.
they're the ones that we're willing to win. And we feel like we do have very strong relationship when it comes to the day-to-day operations, the people who make this team run,
Yeah.
and we feel like we can contact them and give them our thoughts, and that our thoughts will be taken in and considered with a strong amount of emphasis. So
Yeah.
I know that I could reach out to anyone within that group of people who really run their day-to-day
Right.
operations. They'll help us out with what we need.
Yeah. You feel like you're part of the club. It's not just a team. You actually are part of the club in that support and that reaching out and you're as part of the club. You're heard.
Yeah, I know I do. And not to speak for anybody else and their relationships, but I really feel, like I said before, I feel like I've put a lot into trying to make as many close relationships with the day-to-day operations people as I can. They know who I am. They know I'm the guy who wears the same garb every
Yep.
day, uh, every game day, and I get to know them just as well, as people outside of their job. So I feel like I'm getting out just as much as I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel obliged to give a couple shout outs. One to Ulysses, the new graphics designer for the Independents, who just absolutely crushes it. I'm blown away by his
Yep.
designs pretty much every week. And then Alex Cantor, who's probably who I interact with
Hmm.
the most from kind of the front office. He's been tremendously helpful and friendly, and just I think is a real soccer fan, and that always helps. In your front office to have people that actually genuinely like soccer, and he's been I think involved for the past year or so and been just tremendous.
Yeah.
And I'd like to also mention that uh, we made our opinions very well known about the jerseys, the kits.
Hmm.
We didn't think that the new jerseys were quite up to our expectations. I
Right.
don't know if our feedback was what caused this, but we now have a new brand agreement with Capelli, and they're
Yep.
coming out with new home and away jerseys for the rest of the season, and I'm incredibly excited for that. That'll
Yeah.
be I'll be buying the home jersey on the spot
Yeah.
at Sunday's game versus North Carolina FC.
Yeah. You don't have the I can't read your number Richmond kit, so I think you're at
No,
least doing better than that.
yeah,
So that is a huge piece of it too, and having having supported a larger club like Liverpool, there are definitely, yeah, I don't feel like I could write into FSG and John Henry and those guys and it'd make a whit of difference. But the lower leagues and the ability to say, hey, you know what, that really doesn't work for us. I think that's one of the things that separates the grassroots and the lower leagues from the MLS is you feel like actually a part of the family, as opposed to over there, unless you're one of the high ups in the supporters groups and been a season ticket holder for as long as you've been alive, you don't seem to have that much of a voice that often. So would you definitely find that to be true, I'm guessing?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I say that I'm in the reserves. I'm also in some Charlotte FC supporters groups, and that's exactly how it works. You got to be, high up in the organization to have a voice that ownership might hear,
Right.
and the people who make the decisions might hear. So it is way more accessible. And I think at the lower leagues, the fans matter more. It's less about TV revenue and more about butts and seats, and that makes a difference.
So I guess final thoughts then here. Really, you guys are holding on. You're doing great. You're having a great year too. You got a battle of top teams here coming up tomorrow with North Carolina, and people are going to be watching. That's going to be a very good game in a really good time slot as well that Sunday afternoon. So I wish you guys luck with that. But you guys have been able to maintain. You guys have been able, even though it's been rocky. Do you have any advice for the people maybe out in San Diego that, hey, this is coming in, it's happening, how to kind of stay the course?
Yeah, I think my advice might be this is to not because I guarantee you there's going to be new supporters groups that pop up out of nowhere to support San Diego FC, I think is the name.
Mhm.
I'd be shocked if that doesn't happen. And I would encourage them to not necessarily view MLS or an MLS team as an adversary, but be welcoming. And because there are people, unfortunately, who kind of just write off minor league sports.
Mhm.
Maybe I was that person for a while. I don't know. Maybe USL's changed my perspective on that. It's been a long time, but I would say welcome those people. See if you can get some of the San Diego supporters, FC supporters, to come to loyal games. Maybe they've never been to a loyal game. Maybe they like the vibe that's a little more cozy and intimate and feels authentic. So I would say reach out to those people and invite them in because to me, there's just nothing wrong with supporting two teams from two different leagues. It's not like to me, it's not like supporting LAFC and Galaxy or Red
Right.
Bulls and NYFC. I think there's still potential to be collaborative and welcoming and yeah, maybe some of those people are like, heck, I should have been doing this all along. This is
Yeah.
as much fun and it's way more affordable. So
Yeah. Any thoughts, David?
Yeah, I think I would tell loyal fans to continue being loyal. Don't try to be another version, maybe a more affordable version of what San Diego FC may become, the new MLS team may become. Be who you are and commit to that identity, and don't compromise that identity or those values just to try and bring support from people who are just getting into the sport. Hold strong to what you have and be that team and be that identity, and I think people will appreciate that. I know that I appreciate independence values. I appreciate the independence culture and what we have. It fits me like a glove, and I know that it'll fit other people.
Very good. So if you're in the Charlotte area, absolutely, you've got a multitude of soccer options to look forward to. If people are interested, where do they find you guys? How can they get in touch with you? How can they experience what you guys are giving?
yeah, I think we're at Mech Reserves on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
And we have a Facebook presence, and you'll hear us. We'll be the loudest section in the stadium. So just come around and get to meet us. I can't tell you how many times there have been little kids or families come around to us, and we'll see little kids say,
Yeah.
"Can I bang on the drum? Can I take a flag?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Go for it, please. I'd love to have you be a part of that. I feel like soccer, especially with the independence, is such a wonderful participation sport. So getting new people involved and inspiring kids to become fans is so important to what we do.
Yeah,
Brilliant,
and
and
don't forget
that's
to
go
stop
ahead.
by our tailgate.
Yep.
We definitely try to exhibit the Southern hospitality and have had a lot of good support from kind of away fans. We had a great experience, for example, last year with the Flock. Some Four Madison fans happened to be
Yep.
there, and we did this great display, pro Ukraine display with yellow and blue smoke and sidewalk
Yep.
chalk, and they were a part of that. So, yeah, don't be afraid if you're a traveling fan. We like to see that as well.
And the same goes if you guys are ever up in Omaha, definitely come by the Union Omaha tailgate. Uh, Stop by, say hi. That's where you get people is you start with the camaraderie and you start with the unity, and then you go in and you hate each other for 90 minutes, but then you share a beer afterwards, and
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. I think is bringing people together and bringing that sense of community. So definitely look for these guys. If you're in the Charlotte area, go check out the matches. There's more than just Charlotte FC in there, and you guys are definitely showing it and showing the passion. So appreciate you guys' time. Thanks for coming in and doing this, and definitely good luck tomorrow and in every other game except against Union Omaha.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right,
Fair enough.
guys.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. All right, guys. So again, you can find me at Ranting Blue Penguin. I'm rbpenguinmedia.com, or you can email me at rbpenguinmedia@gmail.com. Like, subscribe if you hit this. Also up on Twitter, Instagram, all the things, RB Penguin Media. Just look for that. Guys, take care, and we will talk to you guys later.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.